I think it's an item worthy of your journal. It's certainly going to be in my journal. I keep an alchemical journal of observations because, as an alchemist, if I don't record what I observe, I certainly won't remember, and I certainly won't have anything to relate back to and compare notes with other observers, other scientists, other alchemists. And anybody who is using the violet flame, and you haven't heard this yet, anybody who is using the violet flame is an alchemist, whether they know it or not. They are performing alchemy. They are transmuting things. And so when you really start to embrace this understanding, it is a good idea to keep a journal. And you have something noteworthy in that you just began to work with the decree, I am present, thou art master. And I told you that there was a reasonable expectation for interesting, miraculous type of phenomenon to occur. And you have a gentleman out of the blue contact you, an old friend, who suddenly has a relatability with your new information in the video we did on the science of the spoken word. And he specifically is speaking to his memory of, and he's recommending to you to listen to the album In Search of the Lost Chord by the Moody Blues, which is from the 1970s. And they have 2 tracks on that album specifically designed to raise the consciousness of the listener and come into contact with and understanding the word. And the word is Om. And in my generation, many of us heard that word for the very first time when we played that album. So the fact that this gentleman is coming out of the past, being triggered by the production that you and I did on the Science Spoken Word and relating to that is phenomenal. And that happened after you worked with the decree, I am present, thou art master.
For 2 days.
For 2 days, yeah. And magic happened, as I fully expected it would.
Yeah.
And that kind of little thing could go unnoticed if it wasn't pointed out. And that's why I often take the time to point out what I noticed where other people, it was just interesting, but they don't connect the dots yet. But there's a lot of dots that can be connected with continued observation. So bravo, sister.
Yeah. And brother who sent the message too, for being able to make that connection. I'm not familiar with the Moody Blues, but certainly I will check out those songs after. And
they're on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll share those messages too, because it's all part of the puzzle, and we're all just gathering pieces in order to make the whole thing. And we've been given a lot by the ascended masters who came before us to remind us that's what we came here for too. So
look how they connected you and me.
Yeah, absolutely. Azriel, she has been a student of yours and the teachings of the ascended masters for years, and she found my stuff in a group that I had shared and was tuning in and plugging in, and then she started sharing some of the decrees for me to be able to do, and it was just like, okay, what is this? So then we got on a call. And I said, well, can you share this with people? And then we got on a call, and she's going so super fast. It's like, okay, well, maybe you can slow down a little bit and understand about how much more light is embodied in the words when spoken faster. And then she's like, well, I'm not maybe the one to help you in this process, and I'll connect you with Michael. So she did and gave me Michael's number, and then I contacted him right away, and we met up for a full day of teachings. And as we were connecting, it was just like, Michael, what you are sharing with me is invaluable, and I appreciate it greatly, and I feel like it could really leverage your time for me to be able to share what you're sharing with me with more people through my channel. So that's really how all of these came to be. So it's all exactly as it needs to be.
There's a miracle story that I got to share with you about how I met Azriel. I was at the time driving a truck that had a Wednesday route that went to southwestern Ontario, through London and Tilsonburg and Delhi, your whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
And on that particular day, I was in the habit of doing the miracle mantra, which takes 1 full minute. It's a phenomenal decree. And I was giving the miracle mantra 100 times in a row. So that was almost 2 hours nonstop as I was making the drive back from London. And I did that for about a year and a half, every Wednesday. And I said to myself, I wonder what the miracle will be that I manifest, because I haven't really noticed it yet. And I'm always observing, looking to connect the dots, but I knew something big was going to come out of it. And then one day my boss comes to me and says, I need you to drive north instead of west on Wednesdays. And he changed my route to a route that went all the way up to Huntsville. And I thought, wow, I really was comfortable doing the west, and the north, he shifted me in the winter on a gloomy day, and I really didn't like it. But what developed out of that was, it turned out when I came back from Midland, taking an alternate route, I drove through the town of Elmville, and my father had kept saying to me I should drop in and see Rita at her bookstore. And I didn't know that the town of Elmville existed. I didn't know her bookstore was Elmville. And yet I was driving right past it every Wednesday. And Rita used to come to the temple in Richmond Hill. So one Wednesday I stopped in to visit Rita. And the next thing you know, we started an Ascended Master study group in Rita's bookstore on Wednesday afternoons. My boss let me stay out late. Everything was fine. And we developed a community that had attendance of as many as 10 people on a Wednesday afternoon. And we would give the teaching of the masters. And that's where we met Azrael. She walked by the store one day and something guided her to come in. And it was a year later, I was giving Azrael a ride up north, that we were talking about. I had done the miracle mantra so many times, and I was wondering what was the miracle. And all of a sudden she looks at me and I looked at her, and it just hit me like lightning. I said, the miracle was Elmville. The miracle was that my route got shifted, and we created this group, a number of whom became Keepers of the Flame. And this whole community was built out of it. And here we're seeing more of that miracle, in that we got connected, and now the videos that I've wanted for years to produce are getting produced. And that was the miracle mantra on a grand scale, touching many, many lives.
It's absolutely mind-blowing, because it's not of this earth as to what's happening. And you can't, you can look at things and somebody could say, oh, that's a coincidence. And, oh, well, how is that? And there's all kinds of doubt that somebody could bring into the justification for what happened, and then how that's just a story. Or you could look at it as if it was the miracle that you manifested as the alchemist that you are. And it goes back to, I think it is A Course in Miracles reference, that you can look at everything as a miracle, or you can look at nothing as a miracle. And I know that you have beliefs around the validity of A Course in Miracle as well, which may be something to speak into as well for people who use that as their Bible.
I'll save that for another conversation. There are many little gems that come out of many sources that do have value. And the masters have an interesting phrase that, for those who have faith, no proof is required. And for those who have no faith, no proof is sufficient. And so, even though I have a journal with 10,000 entries of what I would call interesting observations, and some of them quite miraculous, the same journal in the wrong hands is meaningless. And just, oh yeah, coincidence. And but so people unable to really connect the dots or expand their ability to believe something. And that's why for so many centuries, the teachings were kept in the mystery schools and symbolic and veiled language was used because the master said this is not for the profane. It's not for them to even pry into. And so the information was made almost inaccessible to them. So without certain keys to unlock the teaching, it just would not be available. For example, even the book, The Science of the Spoken Word, you can read that book. But if you don't have what we've shared, it's not going to have the same value, especially learning the intonation and the rhythm and the understanding of who is the speaker and why we're doing it in the way that we're doing it. You can't get all that from just reading a book. It has to be, and this is what they call initiation. Face to face, one on one, you get it from someone who knows, and they impart the teaching that way. And there is a transfer of light, and there's a transfer of knowledge, and there's all kinds of things that don't happen in a book. Welcome to the mystery school.
Welcome.